You were joking that he's always late, right? You're breaking
No, I
the
swear to
rules.
God, he's always late for everything.
Yo, Dom, over here. Hey, Dom,
Bye.
hey.
Yo, Dom.
Dom's got a bone to pick with you, cuz.
Oh, I know I'm going to get my ass
Oh,
kicked.
my God. Hey, listen, me and Brian are just going to sit back. Dom, introduce our guest. Go right
Sit.
into it.
Hey,
Okay, here's a
Vinny,
guy.
Can you turn your phone the other way? Turn it sideways, Vinny.
Oh, that way.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to do the. Yeah, there you go. Much better. Yep.
You know, I got to tell you
First
something.
of all, I love what you did with your hair. You look great. And what kind of lie do you have for us that you're this late?
You know what, Dom?
Yeah.
I should have excuses for my behavior, but I don't. I just thought.
See how lovable he is? I told you he was lovable, right? You're gonna like him. Don't let it fool you. He's mean.
I thought you were doing 8 o'clock your time.
Oh, here we go.
That's Dom. You're right. That's very believable.
Listen, what kind of man does a podcast at 5 o'clock PST? I thought I was geared for 11 o'clock tonight.
Dom,
What's
he
that?
does have. Look, I mean, you
Yeah.
said that. He
If you
would have a
divided,
good-
Let's face facts. It's bulletproof. As an excuse, it's fucking bulletproof.
Well, thank
how
you for
old is
joining
your
us.
daughter? The one that when you're outgoing mail.
The one that what?
The one that left that message at the end. Your outgoing thing.
She's 28 now.
She's 28 now.
No, she's 10. But the message
Oh.
might be from when she was 3 or 4. Very long.
That's the cutest thing you've been involved with in your life.
It's hands down the best thing I ever did. That message is the best message I've ever done. Dom, you look fantastic. For some reason, I thought you were going to look bad, but you look great.
Well, I had plenty of rest waiting for you.
That's amazing. And by the way, who's the producer? Brian, right?
Yes, sir.
Brian, I'm not blaming you. It's going to sound like I'm blaming you.
Sounds like
But-
you're blaming me, but it's okay.
No, I'm not blaming you. But I think Dom probably said to you, hey, Vinny, the fuck up. Make sure you call in advance.
I said you always lie, but you're so likable. People don't care.
He did say that. He did say that before we started recording like 3 times.
And I will not take it back.
Listen, I just don't know how to say this any other way. Really? I would fire your producer. That's what I would do. You do what you want, Dom.
Thanks for the advice.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's like this act.
Vin, you really have a reputation of being late, or is Dom just like being a ball breaker? He said
Okay.
you have a reputation of being
Look at
late.
him. He has to think about the bullshit he's going to say to you.
No.
Let me think of that. Do a contemporary.
I want you to know that I do have a reputation for being just barely on time or slightly late.
Wow.
But I've really been trying to reform myself. And so when the call came in, I saw the call come in twice. And I didn't know the number. So and then I saw Dom's number come in. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. And then I called back right away. Now, I've been reforming myself. When I saw Dom's number came in, I broke into a sweat because I don't like being asked. So I got to tell you, now it's just a sweat
But
in
you
the upper
did
body.
say you just wrapped another podcast. Was that?
I did.
Oh, you
I
did.
did.
Oh, see that, Dom?
It was a
He
lie.
wasn't lying. He
And
wasn't lying, Dom.
and it wasn't even a live. It was a pre-record. There was no excuse. And let me say this about the sweat that I broke into. It wasn't just an upper body sweat. I have a full ass crack sweat going on. So
Vinny, I apologize to you for you being late. We're sorry. Sorry we sat here for
I want to
25
know
fucking minutes.
how far back does this friendship go? When did you guys meet?
I met Dom in, I'm going to say, well, it's a pretty interesting story.
It was a Friday night in the summertime, and you gave me $5,000 for 2 shows.
Yeah, but Dom, I don't want to say who because you're still friends with him. But if you remember, I had put an offer out because Dom, I've always been a fan of Dom, and B, we wanted to get him in the room, and I put an offer out, and I kept calling about the offer and calling about the offer and calling, and I couldn't get anywhere, couldn't get any traction, and so I stopped calling, and I put the offer in, I'm going to say 17 weeks in advance, and then on the Monday before that Friday, Dom's agent calls and goes, "I got good news." I go, "I heard from you. What's the news?" "Dom will be there Friday." And I'm like, that's not still available. That's how we did our first date. We got in an argument, not Dom and I, me and the agent, and then we remade the date up. And it's very difficult to meet Dom and not become friends with him because he's.
Hey, Vin, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
What can I
Dom.
say? In the end, it's good to see you.
Listen, you know what I'm saying is true. It's very hard not to be your friend. You're a great guy. You're a nice guy. You're funny as shit. It's all good.
Did he work? Did he work that Friday after that Monday? Did you just make that happen? Oh, okay.
No.
I was gonna say that's short window to promote.
No, we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And
he's got a great club.
Yeah, Dom, we didn't meet at Vita's. We met at my club, right?
I think so. I don't think I met with Mark. Mark's a whole other story, by the way, with the pole up his ass. So, can you do his?
I thought we don't name drop people on this podcast,
No,
Dom.
that's
You
all
told me that.
No, we only name drop.
He
people
told
on
me
the
that
show.
rule, episode 2. He said tone it down with the name dropping.
We're
in episode 18 now.
Let me say this. I do not name drop. I learned my lesson. I was hanging out one day with Robin Williams, and
you know Robin Williams?
I don't name drop because if I drop names, most of the names I could drop, those people only know me when I'm writing them a check. Whereas Dom, we talk a lot more than when I'm writing him a check. Sometimes we talk about the check bouncing.
His wife's really hot too.
Thank you, Dom. Thank you. I'm glad we worked that in, Dom. Thank you very much.
We learned you have a hot wife and a hot daughter. That's what Dom was saying before you logged in.
I think Dom probably learned to talk that way from his good friend Harvey Weinstein. And
Harvey says hello, by the way.
Dom, that's your friend? We're learning something new right now, Dom.
I don't want to brag.
We name dropping?
We're name dropping Harvey Weinstein. Of course, Dom, obviously very tight with what's his name? I can't think of his name. The pudding pop guy. Cosby.
Bill Cosby? You couldn't think.
What? Bill Cosby? What?
I don't remember
you're tight with Bill Cosby, Dom. You were friends with Bill Cosby.
Well, we're from Philly. It makes sense. Wow. Will Smith and I went in boxing lessons. You believe that's did you see Chris Rock?
Well, last night was the Oscars, and I didn't watch it, but I heard Jimmy Kimmel did a great job. He talked about it a little bit.
Did you say Kimball? Or Kimball?
Jimmy Kimmel. I said it right. Kimmel.
You know, I got to tell you this. I was very nervous watching the Oscars, and I felt like I was going to win something. But I just wanted we Dom Irrera with a good guy, pretty funny, and I was crying and shit. Nothing I got.
You know, I don't watch the Oscars because it's all bullshit. But if I were involved in the Oscars, if I were in the Academy, it would be the most important night on the planet.
Of course.
Since I'm not involved.
Fuck it.
Did you re-watch the Oscars, Steve?
I did not. No, I'm saying.
I watched some of it.
But whenever a comedian takes part in something like that, I do try to watch some of the clips on YouTube. I'm guilty of that. Because I'm a stand-up nut, so I like seeing that kind of stuff. If they have a good monologue and all that, I like watching that.
Well, all kidding aside,
that was great timing with the Super Bowl music. What was that? Monday Night Football?
Yeah.
Is that me? No. All award shows need comedians because without them, the shows are unwatchable. I mean, it's just a self-aggrandizing moment. I like the People's Choice Awards when Hollywood gives the normal guy a chance to shower love and affection and money on these superstars. It's like, just once in the People's Choice Award, I'd like to see someone go, you know, my plumber Bobby, he's amazing. And so,
Like, did you see that girl's tits? You can't say that. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
what girl are you talking about? So, Dom, we talked just 2 weeks ago before I was invited on your illustrious podcast. And in that 2 or 3 weeks, I want you to know that for the first time ever, I put a special out. It's on YouTube. It's not a special like you got. But the nature of the beast has changed, right? So it was either Netflix or YouTube.
I see it. It's on Helium's YouTube. It's great. Did
you watch it?
I did watch it.
What did you think?
Very funny. They did a really good job. They did a very good job.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy with it. And it's one thing I always say, all bullshit aside, Dom always gave me chops as a comic. Dom always said I was funny. He always said I went too long, but I was funny. And not only am I late, but I'm long. So,
how many times did you tape for your special? How many times did you shoot? Just one take?
One take. And listen, this isn't. They called me up a week and a half in advance and said, "Hey, you want to shoot a special next Saturday?" So somebody dropped out. But here's the thing: I'm doing it a long time, and I genuinely know what I wanted to do. But I didn't run the set anywhere, so I hadn't worked long in a long time. So I just went up and did it. But that made it a lot of fun for me because there was no mental pressure of I have to do this joke and this joke and this joke. And man, I'll tell you, like Chris Rock just did his live. I didn't watch it yet, but that's what I think everyone should be doing. Because if you watch Dom live, like, I don't know, things are happening, and he's reacting to it.
Yeah, well, when we had Bob Kelly on, he said when he taped his with Louis, that Louis produced it and Louis C.K. and he said, "Look, if something funny happens, I don't edit anything that's funny; it stays in."
Yeah.
So it was very much that kind of style.
Yeah.
If you improv or something happens in the moment, it's staying in.
I have never watched not one comedy special start to finish because the element of raw isn't there. So I just don't watch them because I just know that it's overdone, right? It's the opposite of a movie. In a movie, if you're watching, a period piece about the Civil War and someone leaves a Starbucks cup in the scene,
right,
well, that would ruin the movie. But in a comedy show, the Starbucks cup belongs in the set, right? Because that's what comedy is. And it's always amazed me that guys don't do specials in clubs because it's just more fun.
Brett Ernst did his in a club when I met you the night after. But Brett had his set like on cue cards and was trying to follow a certain system. Dom, do you agree? Like going up there and just like not going like on script or anything? Do you agree with it?
Well, I think it's really important to be funny, right? But it's like, no, I would do like, if I can't think of anything funnier, I'll do my act. You know what I mean? So like trying to be loose, it's nice that you don't have to be so, he can't believe he said that. That was quick, It's like, I think I would rather be so funny the first 5 minutes, and I thought, wow, in my head I'm going, geez, I only got 30 minutes left. This is great,
I watched the Chris Rock special, and even though it was shot live, it didn't seem natural at all. I didn't think it was very natural at all. It didn't really seem like his His
He
stuff?
couldn't wait to get to the Will Smith thing.
You think that's what
You
it
could
was?
say, watching him, he's so fucking good. He's so smart, likable, and you watching him, then he goes into which he really never really did in front of a big crowd. He was phenomenal in that. He would come in like, oh, we think you thought this is good. Boom, watch him take these people down. He's not like a guy that you expect to do that. You know, he's like he's laughing, nigga, this motherfucker, but he's funny. Anyway, one of the best, I think. I don't think there's anybody better than him at stand-up comedy. It's just when you get that good, it's just a matter of taste.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think if you watch R.I.P. Fat Bobby, Dom, you would change your opinion on someone being better. Now,
That's Vinnie Brand's special, by the way, Dom.
Vinnie Brand's an excellent stand-up comedian.
thanks,
And
Dom.
it's on Helium's
And not
Helium Comedy
for a
Studios.
club owner, just for real.
Here we go. We got a shot. Look how professional our producer Brian is, Vinnie Brand, that you were being a little rough on in the beginning.
You know, it's funny.
I think we should fire the producer. I'm with you. I think we should
No,
fire
I've
the producer.
never, whatever happened in Apple's world, they changed the way my email gets read, and I didn't ask them to do that. Okay, it's annoying to me. If I sent them an email that said, "Hey, make my life more difficult," I could understand. I can't. So,
Vin,
anyway,
we were just asking that story about you and Dom. What year was that? Was that long ago? Or was it the past 15 years?
no, longer than that. I'm gonna say that was 1991
You're gonna say it, or you're gonna say it?
or 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 91 or 92.
You opened your club in 91, right? I read. So your club
91, and then I opened the club in 91 in a hotel, and then we moved from one hotel to the other, and then in 94 I moved it into its current location. And listen, the best fun part about the story is when I had to build the new club, I had just recently divorced, and I lived in a boarding house. And when I was in the hotel, I didn't have food or beverage or anything. So when I built the location that we're in now, I was living in a boarding house in East Brunswick. I had no car, no cell phone. I was legitimately poor. So people will talk to me about the club, and sometimes I'll say, well, would you move the club? And the answer is no, because one, I love the room, and two, that room literally changed my life. I mean, it went from, people tell you money can't buy you happiness. Listen, I know it can't, but I've been poor and I've had a little bit of money, and I can tell you right now, poor sucks more. That's all there is to it. Money can't buy you happiness, but poor can sure buy you some misery. And so.
What were you doing that made you start the club?
What was I doing when I started the club?
Yeah, like what made you decide to start it?
So I could tell by talking to you guys that are either one of you comics?
I'm not. No.
I just worked your club for Brett.
Oh, Steve, yeah, of course. Steve, I'm not even thinking. So,
I made a good impression.
What do you do after you see the show?
Dom, I told you what he did to me, right? He brought me up. He said, "What can I bring you up to?" I said, "Co-host of the Yo Dom podcast with Dom Irrera." And he held my hand and he went, "Anybody that works with Dom Irrera can't come in my club." And he kept holding it.
I told him, I go, you know about my problem with Dom. And Brian, like right away, Steve got all kinds of serious. And I go, and so he goes, no. And I go, you're fucking with me. I know you're messing with me. You're saying, Dom, someone must have told you Dom and I have an issue. And Steve was very upset about it. So, Steve, how long are you doing comedy?
It would be 10 years.
Okay. So, in 91 or 89, really 88, 89, when I started doing comedy, I owned a flower shop and a construction company. I was in a very, very unhappy marriage. And comedy was in a boom. And everyone you saw, it was, Fox had their show, not Comic Strip Live. Maybe it was Comic Strip Live. the Evening at the Improv, Comic Strip Live, Caroline. And as a guy that isn't in the industry, you're watching those shows and you're going, well, that's not funny. Or some of it wasn't funny and some of it was great.
Mm-hmm.
But as a young comic or a young guy that wants to be a comic, you're watching that going, well, I can be that funny. So that's what made me want to start doing comedy, was the mistaken belief that that's all there was to it. Meaning,
Right.
you know, what you saw on TV, sanitized, scrubbed of any controversy, was all guys were doing. And then there was the breakout guys that were on HBO. That was a whole different world. So
like Dom Irrera, by the way.
Well, 100%. And you know, you saw those guys, and you were like, okay, well, that's amazing. And maybe I'm not that guy, but I'm better than this guy on Channel 5 at 11 o'clock at night. And for the record, I wasn't.
Right.
But I was in a very unhappy marriage. I had, no joy in my life. So I started doing stand-up. And, the first time I did a show, the first time ever, honest to God, I killed. And I did not prepare. It was all off the cuff. So in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be a superstar, because I wasn't even prepared. So that week I wrote all these jokes. I got so ready. And one of the things I did, because all the other guys on that show were sweating profusely, and I just had a killer 6 minutes. I didn't break a sweat. So my plan was I would do 2 or 3 minutes of killer material, and I wrote jokes. And then I prepared a prop act. And the prop act was, this is the most embarrassing, humiliating moment ever. I took the clear line you see in a fish tank, and I hooked them up to bulbs of water. And I put one in each armpit and one in my groin. Look how happy Dom is, because he knows how bad it's going to be. So I was going to go up on stage, kill for 3 minutes, and then go, these other guys were nervous. I've never sweat like that ever. And then I was going to squeeze this tube of water, and you're going to see my armpit sweat instantly. And then I was going to say that I also got so nervous I wet my pants, and the other one was hooked up to my groin. I'm wearing khaki pants. I'm wearing a denim blue shirt. The 3 minutes of jokes that I wrote were so bad that I didn't need fake sweat. Okay, it looked like I was cutting weight for a wrestling tournament, but I still say, oh, those guys were sweating. I'm not even nervous. And I squeezed the tube of water to let my armpits sweat, and I could feel the water go right down my rib cage. And now I'm going, look at my armpits, but there's no sweat there. So I go, well, let me go for the groin sweat, the peeing. I go, I think I pissed my pants. I squeeze the second tube of water. It goes right down my leg, into my shoe. I've now got squishy socks. Everyone is staring at me going, what the hell is he talking about? Now, it's my second time on stage. And all of a sudden, the lights and sound go off. And in my head, I thought, oh, thank God, a power failure. And I look in the back of the room, and Ward Magnuson from Rascals is going, get the fuck off stage. So I walk off stage, and Paul Vinnie is there. And I go, well, that's it. I quit. And he goes, what are you talking about? I go, I'm never doing comedy again. I killed last week. I died this week. I'm batting 500. And he goes, no, you were supposed to suck last week. You're going to suck for a long time. And that's part of it. If you enjoy doing this, you got to suck for a while. And he's the one that talked me back into going on stage. So that's what I was doing when I started. Flower shop and construction company. And eventually I just kept doing it and got.
Did you open a club for your own opportunities, or were you working the club circuit?
No, what happened was I was working, I was doing open mic, and it was only one night a week. And, maybe the fifth time or sixth time I got a couple laughs, and, it's very intoxicating. And Steve, when you get laughs, you're going to see what I'm talking about. And so anyway, so.
What's it like?
No, you know how intoxicating it is, right? So I wanted more time on stage.
Right.
Because now I know the only way to get good is to be on stage. So I opened an open mic night in New Brunswick, New Jersey for Rutgers students.
Mm-hmm.
$5 cover charge in the basement of a Japanese restaurant. And they got word of it at Rascals. And Rascals blackballed me from working their rooms. They said I was trying to compete with them, even though it was a Sunday night $5 cover open mic night, and I was taking the comics were Jim Florentine, me, a guy named Tom Baychamps, maybe Jim Norton was in the group, and whatever came in, we carved it up evenly. Frank Del Pizzo. So I got blackballed. I called Ward up. I begged him. He said no. I then started working in this B-room circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those rooms closed down in Edison. Now I went to Catch a Rising Star, and all those years ago, it was Louis Ferranda in New York City said, no, we know you have a club. And Rascals really went out of their way to stop me. And so I said, well, fuck it. I'm going to open a room. And that's how it happened. I had 3 kids. I really couldn't go do the road, couldn't go to LA and sleep on a couch. I had 3 mouths to feed. And so that's how I ended up opening the room.
You developed in your own club.
I did, but
wow.
I didn't did the city. I passed on all the city clubs eventually, and I did all the city rooms forever, and I'd own the club and do the city rooms. I think owning the club has hurt me with a lot of guys. A lot of comics don't want to think that a club owner could or should be funny. The guys I respect, the guys I really like, tend to respect me. David Tell, Dom.
Yeah, well, one of the first things Dom said when, I didn't even talk about the club. I was just like, hey, Vinnie Brand, he said he would do the show. He's like, very funny. Get him on.
Oh, that's very nice.
He looked, it's just adding to what you're saying,
Well, thank you very much. I can tell you that Rascals, years after the club was open, I'm home on a Sunday night, and Ward Magnuson called me up, and he goes, it was like 10 to 8. He said, hey, Vinny, it's Ward Magnuson, and if you tell me to go fuck myself in this call, I'll understand. But my headliner's not coming. I know you're a good comic. Would you please come help me out? Because I live close. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go do it. I said, Ward, I'll come do it. Because I thought it was really nice of him. And he right away put it out there. I know. And we made friends. And we don't talk very often. They're no longer in this industry. But we became friends. And
buried the hatchet. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, listen.
Dom, ain't it wonderful when we all get along? Ain't it a wonderful thing?
Harmony.
Yeah.
Harmony.
There's nothing that upsets me more. There's nothing that upsets me more than when comedians hate each other.
I agree. Well, let me tell you something really funny. I used to use phone calls from stage. Now, Bill Burr hated the phone call. It was a prank phone call live from stage. And they're really a tremendous amount of fun to do. And I called the Olive Garden in East Brunswick. And I lay out some line of bullshit about some problem. And the girl gets the manager. And I'm not paying attention. And the manager gets on the phone and goes, this is Ward speaking. How can I help you? And I lay out all the bullshit. And he goes, you're not going to get me, Vinny. I go, you know who I am? He goes, yeah, Vinny, it's Ward. I go, Ward who? And the whole audience can hear it. And he goes, how many Wards do you know, Vinny? And I'm like, oh, my God, Ward Magnuson. And, they were out of the business at that point. And he was managing restaurants. And very, very funny. Yes, the business is too small not to get along. Too small. So, I love it all. Steve, did you enjoy the club?
I loved it. It reminded... Helium is like my home base, like growing up and like being here in Philly and everything. And it had a similar... a similar feel, like the low ceilings, the people right on top of you. It was great. The Connecticut room was a little different than what I expected. Someone told me it was a bank. It was very wide. You know, two of Brett's shows, they were on the top tier, up top. But it's a completely different feel than a room where it's very condensed and tight.
The room in Connecticut, when it's full, is amazing because you have that feeling of seeing people up, and it feels good. And I love the room. But the room in New Brunswick feels like at any moment something terrible could happen. And that's what I think a comedy club should feel like. Now, we built the Connecticut room. I designed the room. We could have lowered those ceilings. We chose not to.
Can I give you a tough question as a club owner? I want
Yeah,
you
go
to
ahead.
answer. As a club owner and a comic, I
Yeah.
want you to be brutally honest. With all the recent shit of comedians getting hit, people coming up on stage, throwing shit at comics, do you think it'll ever change where comedy clubs might increase security, or do you think that adds to what we do as artists at a comedy club? Like, at the I know it's a tough question, but you know, I've been
Quit bragging
asking
about your question.
I got to give myself props somehow, Dom
Oh,
Irrera.
yeah.
Such a great question.
This is what I think. I think that 99.9% of the time, there's not going to be an issue. And it's no different than a restaurant or a TJ
Like a
Maxx.
bar or something like that. Yeah.
Anything. I mean, listen, you see these things happen because there's, you know, it just happens. Now, we have.
I think social media intensified it too.
Well, what I was going to say, and I didn't want to sound like an old man, I think there's just been an overall degradation of values and propriety and decency. Overall.
Dom, Vinnie Brand's a Republican. Who would
I,
think?
well,
Oh, yeah, just open this up.
listen,
Here it comes now. He's a thief.
listen. I think we all know what I'm talking about. So, what I'm going to say is,
I never say the N-word.
no, listen. How can you look at what's going on and not think, well, it wasn't always like this, right? I mean, now, if you read a lot, and having talked to the three of you for the better part of a half hour, I know you guys aren't readers, but if you read a lot, you kind of know it's always been this way anyway, right? So, I mean,
where's the bell? Are you
What's
doing
with
the
the
bell?
bell?
what's that?
There's a bell that keeps going
Is
off.
that Vinny's phone? Brian?
No, is it?
It's not me. Yeah, I don't know.
It's not me. Is there some kind of noise going off here? No, right? I think Steve is doing a shitty job with the anyway. So I think that what has happened, and your question is whether we'll change clubs. I think what's changed more is the woke moment has made comics into two camps. And there's the camp that says, I'm going to say the most obnoxious thing I can, and I'm going to call it comedy. And then there's a camp that goes, I'm going to say the lamest thing ever and call it comedy. And so there's been a polarization, I think, of what guys will and won't do. As far as security is concerned, most clubs have some type of security. We have managers and staff members that's their job if something happens. We have never had a real issue. We've had a couple issues over the years.
You got some pretty husky boys on the payroll over there.
Yeah, we do. We do. Well, the funny part is our manager, Derek, in New Brunswick, I mean, you
boy.
look at Derek and
Big
you
dude.
think nothing of him.
And yeah, NFL guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about? Yeah. There's some big dudes. So, but I don't know. Do you think it's that big a deal, Dom? Do you think there's that much security issue?
Yeah. I think people are starting to be, frightened that because any nut could do what's happening. It's not like this guy's a marksman or something. And people do a lot of this shit for attention, being psychotic and all. It's still the attention. You see the guy on the plane when he started thinking.
Yes.
You see that, and there's nothing they could do about that. I think if people knew what the chances are really, the odds are in your favor. But the chance of getting something not like that is pretty good now, because it's working.
Like
It's
that, how
giving
about
them-
that one? How about that one kid hitting Mike Tyson?
Yeah,
On an airplane.
That's just he said, "What's going to do? Knock me out? Big deal." I'm drunk already, and he did that for the attention.
Yeah, for the social media post. Yeah.
I had a good. That's a good story. The Tyson. One moment in your life, you think, "Holy shit." I was working for Brad Garrett at the MGM.
Yeah, Vegas, yeah.
And Tyson had a show after ours, that one-man show he was doing with the... You ever see any of that? It's pretty good.
Yeah, it was great.
I never saw it, no.
Anyway,
it was great.
It was
on Broadway.
Yeah. It was
One-man show. Yeah.
Well, he was coming back from the day that Ali was buried. He was one of the pallbearers.
Oh, shit.
And he gets at the door of the club, the green room. He goes, "Hey, man." I said, "Good, how you doing?" He goes, "Can I stay down here because I'm exhausted from flying?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we start talking, and I'm like, part of me's going, "This fucking guy could kill me any second just by squeezing my fucking head off." But he was so nice and all. So he says to me, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to watch you. I'm going to watch you go on." And I said, "Relax." He lays on the couch, right? I come out. He's asleep, and he goes, "Oh fuck, I'm sorry, I fell asleep." I said, you know, how do I feel? I said, you couldn't give me fucking 25 minutes. I said, you knocked every fucking buddy in the world out, and I'm left stuck with you. And he starts laughing because I thought, now I can really bullshit fucking. You know what I mean? It's like it's one of those things. I know that the story's not that good, but I'm going to say it anyway just to fill some time in.
That's when the story's great. I mean, you got a lot of things done in that story. A quick name drop. I mean, a big name drop. I remember I was hanging out with Ali, and
I hung out with his daughter.
Did you really?
May. Yeah. Well, she tried to be a comedian. She was at the comedy store.
That's a common thing. Richard Pryor's daughter was
Yeah,
comic for a while, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rain Pryor.
Did she last long?
No.
It was a short reign.
Short. Oh, Brian, look at you.
She came in the club. She didn't perform. She came in the club with someone else, maybe someone else's daughter. Believe it or not, may have been Jackie Mason's daughter. And neither one of them went on. But I remember thinking, this is pretty amazing, right? I mean, this is Jackie Mason and Richard Pryor's daughter. It was an odd thing to think about, right? Mm-hmm. And then they were talking about doing a show, but I never booked them. I did book the Hodge twins. Anyway,
I opened for them in Albany, the Albany Funny Bone. I didn't stay for their set.
Well, I can tell you this: they bring their fans, and their fans absolutely adore them. And so I say a lot of comics will crap on different internet stars, and I go, look, it's not for you to decide. I don't like rap music; it's just not my music. But no part of me says, well, rap sucks. I say, well, I don't like rap. So with the Hot Twins, I didn't see the set at the club. They did a Monday night. They were all Hot Twin fans. They did it 2 times, sold out 2 Monday nights. Their fans gave them 2 standing ovations. What am I going to do? Tell 300 people a night that they're completely right or wrong.
Yeah, we talked with Dom on another episode about internet or actors that got into comedy that actually developed into good stand-ups. He brought up Jeremy Piven. Like, are there anybody comes to mind that you could think of that really surprised you? Like they got really strong.
Well,
like
Piven did well. I haven't seen him. I got him coming up again. I know he's working hard at it. I mean,
it's amazing because he made himself a comedian because he's such a good actor. He acts like a comedian. He doesn't have the soul of a comedian. He's not that funny, and he just doesn't have that soul. You know, everything what you see is superficial, but he's good. I mean, I wouldn't laugh at him, but I go, "Fuck it, he's got a good memory." You know.
I was just talking to Tony Rock. Tony Rock was in the club in Bridgeport, and we were talking about him and Chris, and he said, "Well, one of the reasons Chris and he don't work out is, listen, socially, Chris is far more introverted than I am. I go into a room and I'm like, hey, the party's here, blah, blah, blah. And Chris says, well, I'm going to go up on stage and kill. I'm going to get off stage. That's not what I do." Mm-hmm. So on paper, if you saw Chris Rock backstage, he's definitely quiet, right? He's not gregarious in the way that Tony is. So with Piven, I talked to him backstage. It wasn't very long. He went up on stage. They loved him. He did a lot from Entourage. And I know what you're saying there with the soul of a comic, but I think you could say that about a lot of guys. I mean, the few times I hung out with Richard Jennings, it was well into his career, he was not a happy dude in the green room.
He shot himself in the head, I guess so. He was a happy guy.
Dom,
and then
way to
himself.
find the humor, Dom.
Dom, you can't judge a guy on one day.
Tony Rock should hit somebody. It would put him over the top as a celebrity. He's a good comedian, good guy. He should just smack a woman. He should hit a woman.
Have either
a pregnant woman. Kick her.
Did either one of you guys ever work with Charlie Murphy? I was watching a bunch of his videos online last night, and
yeah, he's apparently somebody that wasn't a stand-up. That Chappelle Show ended up folding, and he went. I heard on a podcast that Charlie Murphy would MC, and was Donnell Rawlings and Bill Burr, and they would tour.
No, listen, I had Charlie at the club. I've watched Charlie do at least 24 shows, and I can tell you that I watched 24 shows. I can't tell you one word he said. I couldn't understand him. But he murdered. He was a great guy, a really nice, down to earth guy.
Dom, did you work with him, Dom?
Murphy?
Charlie Murphy, the brother, Eddie
Murphy. I think so. I remember being on a TV show where it was like 6 people lined up. You know, I'm pretty sure I worked with him. Everybody liked him. I remember that. And affable guy, not like his brother. You know.
I don't know Eddie. I can tell you Charlie was.
I never liked Eddie.
Is that right?
I tried, but I didn't like the way he treated people. Like he'd make fun of them and just bouncers and stuff. And I'm thinking, these guys could rip your fucking arms off, you know, because you're the boss. You can say whatever you want. You know, I mean, I know he's good. I just never liked him. That's good.
I never met him, but Charlie was everything you said. Very nice, very sweet, treated everybody kindly. Really good guy. And I thought he was funny. I really did think he's funny. A lot of stories, a lot of great stories. Calling the characters back. It wasn't stand-up the way Jenny did stand-up.
I mean, like it was like the funny stand-up.
What's that?
It's like the funny stand-up that, you know, it's kind of corny.
Well, you know, I don't know. Dom,
people are going, what a nice guy. He's still on. I don't understand it. But
No. Don't you think there's a lot of comics that off stage don't have the soul of a comedian?
Yeah, of course.
Right. They're good writers.
When you're as strong as I am, everybody looks bad to me.
That's a fair point.
That's true.
Dom
That's true.
Irrera.
But you know, some guys backstage are just not fun to hang with. I think, by the way, I think that's become more common, particularly with some of the internet guys that blew up really quick and they never had to do the grind, so they don't understand, and maybe they don't appreciate.
They don't understand the culture.
And they don't appreciate. You know, listen. You know, I'm sure Dom did it. I did it. I would drive into New York City, leave my house at 7:00 at night to get to the comic strip by 8:15, to put my name on the late night list.
I do that
and
now.
sit there
I do
for
that now.
3 hours and wait for the late night. Because once you got past, you still had to do late night.
It still goes on.
It does.
You know, like for me right now, I'm a Philly comic and I'm trying to break into the New York scene. So, yeah, they know me. They know I'm fun, but there's a certain culture that comes with that, and you have to be around. You got to show face. You got to do the hang.
Don't let them see your act, you know.
Well, I mean, no.
You just develop them in other ways, like as a friend, you cook for them for no reason.
Well,
but don't let them see you.
I bring them my mother's leftovers. That's my way in, you know.
Steve, let me ask you a question. So, given the playing field that we're in right now, short of developing, meaning the stage time is great, but the way to get booked into a movie or TV show or even a stand-up spot on Kimmel is to have 3 million followers, right? I mean, if you have 3 million followers,
that's all in the last 10 years, the followers thing.
Well, but that's my point. That's where we are now. So, like, I'm gonna go do spots in New York City for the first time in 7 years.
Yeah, I read that in the trades today that you're coming in.
Came through on the wire.
I got to make some money. But, like, if I were, like right now, I spend more time online. Mm-hmm. What you're doing right now is going to be seen by how many people? But more importantly, it's going to live online, and it's got the opportunity to be seen by millions and millions and millions. Now, I could tell you from this particular performance, in your case, it would harm you. But for me,
it's the power of editing.
A lot of bull breaking tonight. I love this group.
The producer is also a really good editor too. You know, so you got that going on.
No, but you know what? All balls to the side. More people.
The music again.
Well, more people will see this, and it lives longer. And if they like you, they're going to come see you. And you're very likable, right? So this is, let's say you do Kimmel tomorrow, and you're going to be seen by whatever his audience is. Call it 1 million people. 500,000 may have been going to the bathroom at that time. Another 500,000 may have said, well, I'm going to check the basketball score. You don't know what the real shelf life is. Now, they put those things online, and that helps you. But the online helps you more than the live. So you talk about trying to break into New York City. You want to break into New York City? Have 1 million followers. They'll put you on stage, hands down. That's just my perspective on it. I think it's all changed.
Yeah, but Vin, this is where I disagree. I want to watch the best comedians every night. I want to follow the best comedians. I want to that still exists in New York. You don't think that still exists?
No, he's saying it still exists. He's saying how you
that part of it still exists.
Yeah,
that part of the culture still exists.
Well, that's a different conversation than what I was having. Yes, there's a real value, and you will never get good at this business by not being on stage. And yes, you should go work where the best are. I'm not telling you not to get past to New York City. What I'm telling you is that when I got past to New York City, you had to go grind out. Mm-hmm. There was no internet, so you had to go up on stage after those guys and carry your weight. And I think that aspect of it has been replaced now with this guy's got 4 million followers. So yes, you want to be a good comic. There's no shortcut. I'm pretty confident that Dom can walk into any environment and kill, and I can too. And you only get that way by doing that job, right? So there's that aspect of it. I'm talking about becoming famous and making money and getting booked. Well, that's all the internet then, right? Because, I think Brian Regan, Dom, that group of guys, they ground out an audience by the TV appearances and by going to the Stress Factory or wherever, and people going home going, I saw Dom Irrera, and 100 people going, who? Right? So I think that word of mouth thing is replaced by the internet, which is a gazillion times more powerful.
Oh, yeah.
What scene you think was more difficult, New York or L.A.?
On stage?
Stand up.
I think the New York comics have a harder, more in tune audience. I thought the LA audience is.
Dom, you agree?
No, I think if you're going to go straight to a city to hang for a couple of years, New York is better than LA. LA's tough for new guys.
Tough? You mean the audience is tough?
Well, the numbers and all. I mean, New York. It's a much more positive thing to be a comedian. When you got to LA, what are you what is that thing that keeps?
Yeah, where is that?
Some bell.
You think
it might be somebody's phone.
They have so many great places they can play in New York. LA's like really 3 or 4 places. That's it.
Yeah.
I think the audiences of LA, to me, they seem like they're somewhat easier than the audiences in New York. And I think the comics in New York develop with a crisper edge. That's my perspective. And I think Philly and Boston, I don't think Boston anymore, but I think it was true of Philly and Boston. And now, like the Nashville guys, those guys are coming out, and that's a very clean, it's a really clean breeding ground. And those audiences don't want to hear filth. They will, but that's why Nate Bargatze and Aaron Weber and Dusty Slay, those guys down there, they're developing a really interesting style, which is, I think that's also kind of fun, right? Because that whole style is different than what you see in New York. In New York, everything's hard edge, and I would watch Nate come into New York City and just annihilate.
Nate Bargatze.
And he'd follow guys who were dropping a million F-bombs, and Nate's up there going, my wife, she doesn't understand can openers, and killing because he was just so likable. Mm-hmm. So a lot of different flavors now, which I think is fun too.
Yeah, then Austin's Austin's really jumped off too.
Austin, right now, I think the hottest markets for development are New York, LA, they'll always be good. Mm-hmm. Austin, I think Nashville, Chicago.
I was in Chicago for 2 years, and I say to everybody, that comedy scene, I was getting on stage 15 times a week. I mean, they weren't the best quality shows, but for someone that was, at the time, under 4 years in, I was getting a lot of reps and hours in. So, I mean, the comedy in Chicago, that is a comedy town. And Zanies, then, I don't know if it's still the case, but they had shows 7 nights a week with an audience.
Yeah.
I don't know of a lot of East Coast clubs that can get a room every night of the week of just stand-up fans. Like,
it's only
Chicago
110.
has, what's that?
Only 110 people in that room. Zanies.
Yeah, but it still had comedy fans 7 days a week. They had stand-up.
Are you
7 days.
You disagree with me?
No, not at all, Dom. I would never do that.
Scare me.
Boston was for a while
red
hot like that.
They
had that one street. there was 7 clubs, within 2 blocks of each other. And it was almost like a comedy district in a way.
Remember Nick's? Remember Nick's?
Yeah, of course.
Nick's was really rough. I mean, it was all like the mob and the police are all. Yes, I had 3 guys. I got a ticket. 3 guys wanted to fix it. Cops, trash men. It's amazing. But we're working there a lot. It's this time in my life. And I had a 3 show Friday night, right? Boston. Now this is a tough fucking show. And John Katz, who's so fucking mellow, I said, "Why don't you come do the show tonight, 30? Because I don't want to go on there." I said, "Come on, John. We'll have fun, laughs, right?" He's walking to the stage. They start booing him before he even said anything. Boo! They're like his bald head is like shining in this light. And it's so sad. He gets on the stage, and he looks at them. And he looks at it, he goes, satisfaction. Walked away. Some fucking one word. And could you imagine how tough a club is if they're booing you on the way up to the little bald-headed guy? Precisely.
So in Boston, I did a spot early in my career. I did it at Duck Soup. Dick Doherty. I think Dick Doherty
That was right across the street from Nick's.
Yes, it was. And on the show, I got a spot. The show was like Lenny Clark, Steve Sweeney, Dennis Leary. Like it was Murderer's Row of Boston guys. And those guys at that time, they never left Boston.
No, they made a great living there.
Yep.
Raised their kids.
And I went up and I did okay. And I think it was Lenny Clark goes, "Hey, good job." And I go, something like, "I'd like to come up again." He goes, "Oh, you'll never crack the lineup here. There's too many great guys here, but man, you're really funny." And I mean, it was like so matter of fact, like, but that show, there was that one guy that fell down the steps at the Tonight Show. I can't think of his name. He died recently, but I mean, it was Bob Marley, all those great Boston comics. And that was a legitimate scene. No more though. That I know of.
The only thing I can think of is New York and Chicago, where it's 7 days a week. Well, LA. I mean, I don't know. Does LA have? You go to the Comedy Store tonight on a Monday or Tuesday. Is it going to be packed? Or the Improv, Dom? If you go to
the Comedy Store would be, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Those are the best 3 cities probably to develop. No. Chicago, New York, and
San Francisco used to be too.
Sure.
Yeah, very good scene.
I think Rogan's room might end up being 7 days.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
It's only been open a week, but he's doing some killer promotions with it, and just his name being attached to it, and like all the talent that's going there to work the club. Mm-hmm. It's really making a lot of noise on the internet right now.
He's going to have a great room. I mean, Joe's a real nice guy. I only know him a little bit. He's always been a gentleman. Dom's friends with him, obviously. But, Joe's room will be a monster room. And from what I understand, and I'm not sure about this, but the weight room and the green room is just amazing. So,
I'm sure he made a great club.
It'll be a great room. It'll be. I just talked to someone, and they told me that there's 2. Mark Norman told me there's 2 rooms, and it's connected by a tunnel or some crazy thing. So it'll be great. And Joe will make Austin. He already did in so many ways, because he moved to Austin, and a lot of guys moved to Austin from LA.
Yeah, specifically for him. Mm-hmm. Like, he had a whole group of him.
Yeah.
He hired a lot of the staff, like the waiters, waitresses, and stuff, a year before it opened. He paid them.
Really?
Yeah. He makes so much fucking money.
Yeah.
You know what it is, though? And again, we're acquaintances. Joe and I are acquaintances. So I'm not saying that we're friends. But every time I've been around Joe, he's just been a complete gentleman and a very generous guy. Not necessarily me. I got him a beer. He didn't tip me. But the thing is that, he took, it just takes care of the staff, takes care of everybody. And so whatever that guy does in the industry, he earned it
He
really the
carved his own.
old-fashioned way.
We used to play. We used to play pool every Sunday night, and then we couldn't play anymore because the guys kept bothering him. You know, hey, these guys with Middle Eastern accents come up, and he's doing it, and then you got to sell, give an autograph. They don't give a fuck. You should see him shoot pool, by the way. He's right under a pro level.
Yeah, I've heard he's good. Yeah.
Well, the last time he was in New Jersey, he stopped in. Brewer was on stage. He came in to see Brewer and say hi, and he was in town to shoot pool and have steak. And as jealous as I am of his career, I was more jealous of that lifestyle. Yeah, I'm gonna go to New Jersey and just have steak and shoot pool. What kind of man gets to do that when you're married? I can't do that. I can't go to New Brunswick and shoot pool and eat steak, and my business is in New Brunswick. Good guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Dom, how you doing since your operation? Your back is all good?
Terrible.
Is it terrible still?
I live in pain. Yeah. It doesn't hurt when I sit down. It hurts when I walk. So I got a bicycle. I feel like such a fucking old man. My bike. What's that?
What's the prognosis for that improving?
Oh, I don't know. It's improving. And I mean, it got really good for a year, and then I think I'm coming back. But I can't do long. I don't feel like doing long sets because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember Brett Leake?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't picture him, but
Well, Brett Leake had either MS. I think he had MS, or he had something.
it's a good way to end this. It's a good way to end the show. Talking about diseases.
No. Brett would walk on stage.
You could die from the mumps. I love when people tell you something. No, I'll tell you a story. I don't want to hear it. No, this is a kid.
This is a good story. Brett was a very, very, very funny guy. And when he got to a point where he couldn't stand anymore, he was booked in the room, and we were talking, and he was very sad. And he goes, this is it. I can't do it anymore because I can't stand up. I said, Brett, you have to stand. Go up on stage and sit down. And he was self-conscious of his ability to stand or walk or whatever. And I said, Brett, just go up on stage and sit down and go, well, I'm in a tough spot. Your whole life, you've been told not to laugh at the handicapped kid, and yet here I am. And he went up on stage, he took over the line, he murdered, he sat down and killed. I wouldn't book him anymore because he went long. But the thing is, he was a great comic. So I hope that as a guest was concerned, despite my late arrival, I think I've been rather entertaining and gregarious.
Vinnie Brand, we had a blast.
You really have. Very, very, very funny.
Dom,
It was okay. Yeah.
Vin, plug your special one more time.
Thanks for
again
coming.
for doing the show.
I'm going to say it's R.I.P. Rest in peace, Fat Bobby. And I'm going to tell you something. It's a little bit of a whine and a little bit of a compliment. I appreciate you having me on and treating me like a comic and a colleague, which is very, very nice, and promoting the special for me. I've always loved hanging out with you, Dom. You're truly one of my favorite comics, but also, more importantly, a good friend and one of my favorite people. You're great. Steve, you were great at the club. I think you did a great job. Come back, please. Brian, I can't say that you added to this podcast.
Did I take anything away from it?
No,
Okay.
you did not.
All right. Well, break even. Yeah, that's all I could ever hope for in life.
You did great.
Vinnie Brand, thank you very much again.
Vincent.
No, Dom, that's our episode. Thank you.
I love you, Vincent.
Thank you,
Come
guys.
here. Yo, Dom, over here. Hey, Dom, hey.
Yo, Dom.